registering for today's webinar with Hennepin Marketing and Interpromote. We are on our third month of this series so far, and we're really excited to bring you today's topic. So for today's presentation, we are going to be discussing next level PPC and SEO using Google Analytics. So we've in previous months talked about the real basics of PPC and SEO, what they are, how they work, how they can work together. And Eric and I felt like this month was time for that next level of how to really take it to the next step and further improve performance. So I'll introduce myself really briefly and then kick it over to Eric for him to introduce himself as well for those of you who are new with us this month. My name is Kayla Kurtz, and I'm the paid search consultant at Hennepin Marketing, and I'm also one of our writers for PPC Hero. Eric, your turn.
Hi, everybody. My name is Eric Dafford. I'm the president at Interpromote, and we are an agency that specializes in organic search marketing and social media. And we're just really happy to be doing our third webinar today with Hennepin. We found a great chemistry over the last several months, and we're thrilled that so many of you could be with us today. So thank you.
Awesome. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump into a brief overview of today's topics, and then we'll get started. So for today's presentation, we're going to be answering the following questions that are related, again, to using Google Analytics for PPC and SEO marketing analysis. So first, how do SEO and PPC use analytics for reporting in addition to other medium-specific interfaces? Second, we'll show you where you can find the most segmented and targeted SEO and PPC data in analytics so that you're certain you're analyzing the buckets accurately. Next, we'll go into some basics on custom reports through analytics, and then we'll also review some samples for PPC and SEO respectively. After that, we'll discuss whether it's possible to learn PPC opportunities from SEO KPI within analytics, and of course vice versa. Our final couple of subtopics are then going to illustrate how you can analyze the interactions between PPC and SEO using analytics, and whether it's possible to measure content effectiveness when you're missing keyword level data. Then we're going to wrap some things up as usual and have some time for questions at the end. So speaking of questions, you'll see there at the bottom that we do have a hashtag set up. So throughout the presentation, if you've got questions about anything Eric and I are discussing, you can either go to the GoToMeeting chat screen and leave us your questions there, or you can go to Twitter and use hashtag PPCSEO and send us your questions that way. If we get to the end and we've only got time for a few questions, or we don't get to everyone's questions, Eric and I will be sure to put a post up on PPC Hero in the next few days with the responses for those questions. Want to make sure everybody gets the answers that they need. All right, so we've got a ton of content this month. Let's not hesitate anymore and get started. Eric, all you.
All right, thanks. So the point of today's webinar is, what are we going to do with all this analytics? You know, we have all this data, and boy, you know, you dive into analytics for the first time, whether it's Google Analytics or Omniture or anything, and you say, wow, look at this freaking set of data that I have here. And most of these analytics packages are set up so that, you know, along the 80-20 rule, meaning that for most cases, about 80% of the people can get what they need from about 20% of the features that are offered. Unfortunately, what we see is people use actually about 2 or 3% of the features because they just are maybe intimidated by some of the interfaces. They're not sure exactly how they should be looking at this data, what they should be looking for to measure. Oh, sorry about that. And they're just not sure where to go next after the default screens. So the point of this is, why? Why are we looking at all this data? Well, one, we can look at cross-channel analysis, and that is, you know, how your campaigns, your different online marketing campaigns are working together for the betterment of your online marketing goals. We don't really talk so much in terms of just SEO or just PPC or just email anymore. What we realize is, and this is a big shift that's come around in the last couple of years, they're all working together. If you're sending out the right message, they're reinforcing each other. So we're going to look closely at some of that stuff. You know, and that comes to how we can measure, and assign credit to our various channels for the clicks and conversions. Now, how do we do this? We're specializing in Google Analytics today just because it is both a terrific entry-level analytics package, but also it can do just about anything that the very expensive premium analytics packages can do. And the nice thing about it is there's one code snippet that goes on every page. You don't have to change that. You don't have to customize it for different site sections. You don't have to customize it for different campaigns. One code to rule them all, as Kayla has written here, and that is very efficient when it comes to coding sites and getting data. You can start a Google Analytics account, and within 24, 48 hours, you can really be looking at some results without a great deal of heavy lifting on your or your development team's side.
Fantastic. So as Eric said, you guys are going to see as we move through the presentation that a lot of our screenshots and our examples are right out of the Google branded analytics interface. But of course, you keep the back-end strategies in mind, because that's what's truly the most important. And you can find all of this information in really any analytics package that you're using. But for ease purposes, we're gonna use Google as the universal go-to for this particular presentation. So we really want to make sure that everyone understands analytics. It makes it pretty simple to segment traffic and analyze your separate marketing buckets on their own. You can look at PPC specific traffic, SEO specific, and then of course direct traffic as well. So when you initially log into analytics, the default setting is going to show you a rolled up data set that's going to include all of your website's traffic total for a given date range. So if you're looking at the entire month of January and you set the date range from January 1st through the 31st, all of the data you're going to be looking at is going to include paid search, SEO search, so organic search, direct website traffic, everything's going to be there. However, if you click open the advanced segments option, which I've got the screenshot here to show you where that's going to be placed in analytics, if you click down and open up this drop-down menu, it gives you the option to select a couple of its other default segments so that you can specifically see data for that medium. So for our purposes, if you're wanting to see just your paid search traffic, you're going to select the paid search traffic box, and that's going to show you your PPC data. Inversely, if you select the non-paid search traffic button, you're going to be looking at just your SEO level data. Of course, you can click multiple segments here, and then you'll be able to select by segment views throughout the dashboard later. But it's generally speaking just easier to select one or the other, or if you're looking at direct traffic specifically, and analyze that way throughout. So while analytics refers to these as advanced segments, Eric's actually going to outline some what I'm calling uber advanced segments that he and his team use very frequently within analytics to analyze their data.
All right, thank you. Now, I want to go back and explain what it is we're doing when we're creating these advanced segments and why. Look at this picture and think of this as all your web analytics data. There's a ton of it there. It's the aggregate view, but the truth is it doesn't tell us the whole story. Think of it as along the lines of this metaphor. Say you have a motivational speaker and she's getting ready and she talks to her publicist and says, look, okay, I'm getting ready for this speech. What's the average age of the attendee? And the publicist says, well, I mean, I guess the average age is about 35 or 40, and then she says, okay, that's all I need, thanks. And she prepares a speech for the population whose average age is 35 or 40. Now, if she had been able to apply advanced segmentation to that audience, i.e. dig a little deeper, she would realize that this was going to be a speech given to grandparents and their grandchildren. On average, the grandparents being about 75 and the children being about 5 years old. So your average age turns into about 40, but there are no 40-year-olds. So the point of advanced segmentation is don't take the aggregate as gospel. There's a lot of little stories within this. So if we look at all these data as the comprehensive data set, we want to know more. We want to be able to pull out some of these specific visits or users or patterns or actions and say, look, let's find people with unique characteristics. and put them off to the side and see what they did, see what kind of experience they had, see how they came to the site, see what actions they performed or their level of satisfaction, and find out more about them. And if it was good, we're going to try to replicate that, and we're going to plug more resources into that. And if it was bad, we're going to figure out why it was bad, and we're going to try to fix that. So that's really the point of advanced segmentation. And do not be intimidated by the fact that you have to actually go out and build advanced segments. We're not going to spend any time on doing that today in this webinar, just simply because there's not time, but there are a tremendous number of very informative tutorials out there about creating advanced segments, and it's not hard, but it is very helpful. So why and how should we segment? Here are some examples. And I'm a big follower of Avinash Kaushik, who is a Google employee, but he was an analytics maven long before he joined Google. He has 3 reasons to segment, and I sort of added a 4th one, which is, sort of pieced together by subsets of the first 3. The first way to segment is through acquisition. In other words, let's segment based on how people got to your site. Was it through PPC? Was it through SEO? Was it through email, et cetera, et cetera? The next one's behavior. Let's focus on people who are doing certain things when they get to the site. Maybe they started the shopping cart. Maybe they downloaded a file. Let's isolate those people and see what happened. By outcomes, that's the third. These are visits that are showing that the user performed an activity with a proven value to you. All right, so that's critical, because we want to know, we want to be able to isolate the group of visitors who actually did what we wanted. What commonalities are there, and how can we expand that to show people that same experience? And then finally, this is sort of, like I said, pulled from other the first 3 categories, but by demographics, maybe by device, maybe by location, which I'll talk about shortly. But you can't, of course, isolate in Google Analytics by gender or income or anything like that. But there are a lot of good things you can do with certain characteristics of the individual user. Now, I wanted to talk specifically about some of the day-to-day advanced segments that we use that are not necessarily baked into the default set of advanced segments that Google Analytics provides. Branded versus non-branded, okay? We can take all the visits that have a keyword associated with them, and of course those are only going to be search visits, but it's both SEO and PPC. For example, if you work for, if you're looking at a certain Toyota dealer's website in the automotive industry, you would want to segment based on, if you're doing branded versus non-branded, you would sort keywords that do contain the owner of the car lot, any certain branded things like, slogans that they would use. We want to divide people into people who already knew that this business existed, i.e. the branded queries, versus people who might just be searching for Toyota dealer, Lexington, Kentucky. That would be a non-branded visit. So there are ways you can say, hey, any query with any of the following word patterns, we'll sort that into branded. Any query that doesn't have these word patterns is non-branded. Location is another one. This is especially helpful with some research we're doing for university. One of the things we found is that there are 2 very distinct types of users. People who already go to this university. Hey, where's the calendar? Where's this building? When is tuition due? How do I get reimbursed for this? Okay, they know the school exists. They already go there. They have very specific queries associated with them, while the other half, roughly, of the population landing on this site wants to know more about the programs, wants to know the degree opportunities, wants to know about graduate school, wants to know about undergrad, wants to know directions to the campus, wants to know how many regional campuses there are and where those are, all sorts of things. So things like that are leading us to a report about how traffic flows throughout the site, which is going to eventually lead to some real design recommendations that are going to facilitate people getting the amount of information they need with the fewest number of clicks. And that is, of course, our goal. Let's get people there and get them happy as quickly as possible. Now, mobile is big, and I say real mobile because Google Analytics has a prefab mobile advanced segment, but that segment includes iPad. And as you're probably aware, the iPad versus the smartphone surfing experience is very different. They can be both very good or poor, but they're very different. So we create our own mobile segments and we eliminate iPad from that. And what you'll find is anywhere from 20 to 30% of mobile traffic, as Google defines it, is tablet traffic. So that's fine if that's what you're looking for, but you got to be aware of that. And then finally, we want to look at visits that convert and also visits that don't convert. What are the commonalities there? And those are really easy to do. Just set up a segment for, wherever a conversion equals a certain amount or is yes or something like that versus no or is worth $0, something like that. So let's find out what worked in there. Let's find out what didn't work in there, and then let's adjust accordingly.
I told you guys I meant it when I said uber advanced segments. Eric is not kidding around. So now that we've covered sort of how to get started with analytics and how to set up, some advanced segments that allow you to see, even more refined group of your traffic performance, we want to also discuss how to set up some custom analytics reports, because all of the data we're going to talk about in today's presentation you can find throughout the dashboard, but custom reports are going to give you an ability to save yourself some hassle. So custom reports are exactly what they sound like. Reports that you can build yourself within analytics that pulls the data you need to see or want to see frequently without having requiring you to go through the interface and filter down to that data every single time. So within custom reports, you basically, and you can see this in the screenshot here, you're going to select particular metrics, dimensions, and filters that siphon out the numbers you need to see. These custom reports can also have multiple tabs. So essentially you've got a bunch of sub-reports in one big rolled up report. And I also think it's an important note here that not all metric dimension relationships can be set within these reports. So you can't always select every single dimension for every particular metric. The analytics help form actually has a really cool tool that you can kind of test this out with before you're live trying to build your custom report. So if you just go to the analytics help forum and type in custom report dimension metric matching, it's going to give you the ability to basically figure out if the metric dimension match you want to make is possible within these reports. So make sure you check that out, and that'll give you an idea of what you can set up before you actually get started. But in terms of why you would want to go with a custom report, this really does all come back to time. So of course, being account managers for SEO or PPC, we're incredibly busy. More often than not, we're managing multiple clients' accounts. So if we have the ability to save ourselves a few minutes here and there, that time ends up adding up before the end of the month into a fairly substantial project that you can work on you may not have had time for before. So in the interest of saving some time for yourself, you can build this custom report to pull in the data you need to see, how you need to see it, so it's a one-click stop to be able to see the performance KPI important to you. So now I think Eric and I are going to go into a review of a couple custom reports, one for PPC and then an SEO one that Eric's more likely to use. So for my PPC example, we're going to be looking at an e-commerce specific account. So one thing that's hugely important with e-commerce accounts is return on ad spend. And in order to calculate this number, you need to compare total ad spend to the revenue generated from that spend. Obviously in AdWords, you can see conversions all the way down to the keyword level, but you can't pull revenue data into AdWords. So in order to make that comparison, you've got to jump over into analytics. Again, this is information I look at frequently, so in order to dig down in and get it throughout the dashboard, I certainly can, but setting up this custom report just keeps me from having to do all that filtering. I like to look at my return on ad spend numbers by campaign for this particular account because my campaigns are actually product subcategories that have pretty close profit margins attached to them. So I can kind of bucket them into larger groups and make some overarching decisions based on a campaign by campaign basis. So you can see in the screenshot that I'm looking at revenue and ad spend by campaign. And then I've got a secondary source medium selected for PPC only, so I'm not having to filter through and make sure that I'm not looking at SEO or organic data while I'm looking at this particular report. Because another note about custom reports is that they do not take into consideration any advanced segments you may have selected in the initial dashboard. So even if you said to analytics, I only want to see PPC data, in your custom report, you have to reselect that segment or it's going to show you a fully wrapped data set. So in addition, I wanted to note that this particular view is showing me a typical return on ad spend. So there are actually sub-tabs within this report that take out shipping and tax consideration for more of a true return on ad spend number. There's one for revenue by keyword so that I can individually drill down and see if there are any terms that I'm spending on and not getting a high enough revenue. But you can see just by this screenshot how, you know, populating this data in the general analytics report on in the dashboard on a day-to-day basis is going to be incredibly cumbersome and time-consuming. So this is a great example of how to use custom reports for PPC to not only get the next level of, you know, a layer of data and information, but to save yourself some time.
Very good. Now, on the SEO side, and I want to jump back and say that Kayla did a very good job of explaining, again, why to do a custom report, when you would have to versus when you wouldn't. And again, I want to urge you to not be intimidated by having to build a custom report. All it is, in terms of custom reports, as advanced in opposition to advanced segments where you're asking Google to produce and filter and divide data in a way that it currently had not done before. A custom report is really all about, look, you already have all these little data chunks scattered around the room, Google. All I want is for you to take this one and this one and this one and put it together in one place where it's always there for me. So that's really the benefit of it. And so that every, you know, on the first of every month, you don't have to reassemble this report that you sort of forgot how to do and it took forever to build it and you were dragging stuff and clicking stuff and sorting it. Just build it as a custom report, save it, and it's always there. So this report that I built, the sample SEO sample custom report, really isn't necessarily SEO based. You could use this for PPC too. All it is that we took a site that on which you can create online appointment requests and you can request to be subscribed to the corporate newsletter as two of the several conversions that this organization has. And all it does is say, hey, let's list out how many of these goals were completed, and then let's assign it to a specific medium or source. So in other words, we can see that Google's organic campaign was responsible for the majority of the online appointment requests. After that, direct traffic was responsible for about 800. And if I can jump in here on a question, someone had a question about what is direct traffic. Direct traffic is traffic that comes right to your site from no recordable source. In other words, maybe someone types in your URL to right into the browser field. They go there. Or maybe they click a link from email that someone sent them that doesn't have a tracking code. It is traffic that comes right to the source, right to the site, but does not have a referrer attached to it. That's as opposed to referral traffic, which is non-search traffic and non-direct traffic, but it just comes from another site. Maybe you have a link on a site of organizations like yours. People see that list of organizations, they click over to your site, that's referral traffic. So I hope that's clear. But yeah, this particular custom report took about 3.5 minutes to build. And it's a really smart, accurate snapshot of what's going on day to day, month to month in a campaign. Where are our goals coming from? What's producing them? And is it a higher proportion this month than last month? So custom analytics reports can be very complex. They can have financial data attached to them like Kayla's did, but they can also be very simple. And sometimes, you know, in any analytics package, the simplest stuff can be difficult to find. So I recommend absolutely going in and playing with this stuff. You're not going to break anything when you build these custom reports. Try it and configure it until you like it. Oops.
Great. So I think up to this point, we've really discussed the best way to use analytics for PPC or SEO. So Eric and I have really been, batting the ball back and forth about how to use it for this and then how to use it for that. Now we're going to discuss how to use the SEO and PPC analytics data together. So you can compare the two to one another and see how they function together as well. So first up, we're going to talk about how you can use the analytics KPI that may be more, regularly analyzed for one medium to benefit the other. In other terms, what can I learn about SEO from my PPC typical KPI data and vice versa? So specifically, when looking at PPC typical data and analytics, what could you be learning for your SEO team? You could sort of pass along to them. I frequently look at a report on the PPC side of total revenue by keyword within analytics. And this is a pretty obvious PPC purpose. I want to make sure that the keywords that I'm bidding on that are spending money are also converting. However, if there seems to be a term that is producing a lot of revenue that even by my standards doesn't seem like a common sense term or phrase that the brand I'm representing or managing accounts for would think their searchers or their customers is using, and it's pushing a ton of revenue, that's a term that I definitely want to pass over to the SEO team and make sure that if they're not directly targeting that keyword, they start to now. Because if we're already kicking up a ton of revenue just from bidding on that term from a paid search standpoint, imagine if we were showing up additionally in the organic rankings within the top 2 or 3 spots. So this is just a great example of learning from one to give to the other. Eric, what do you usually see from SEO data that can give you some indication of what to pass along to your PPC team?
Well, just like you said, there's a lot of stuff that indicates that we always need to be communicating between the two teams regularly, whether you're an agency that does both in-house or whether you're working for a client that has, PPC and SEO under different roofs, or you're inside and in-house and everything's done, but 3 cubicles over is the person doing SEO and you're doing PPC. You got to make sure that you're sharing this stuff. And a couple of the things that we would look at, depending on what the goals of the site are, could be the time spent on site. Maybe we're seeing that for SEO, we're seeing this type of keywords containing a certain phrase or phrases. We're getting people really looking hard at the content. Maybe they haven't done what we wanted them to do yet, but that's definitely something we would want to pass over to the PPC team. Because as we're going to talk about coming up a little later, the cross-channel attribution really might start to kick in. So we want PPC to know what terms brought visits that lasted a long time and what terms brought people that just really didn't stick around. And time on site and bounce rate are really sort of 2 sides of the same coin. If everyone eventually leaves the site. So every site, in a sense, has a 100% bounce rate. But at the same time, you don't want someone landing on a page and disappearing within 5 seconds. You want them to stick around. You want them, if they're going to just do that one page view, you want to at least make sure that they've read the copy, absorbed what it is they're looking for. Unless your site is one of those real quick hit, what's the capital of France type sites where they've achieved their goal and they've done it in 5 seconds and then they're back. Although that's not a super revenue model. So there aren't a whole lot of sites that we'd recommend that for. But yeah, any user statistics about the quality of site, whether it's number of pages viewed per session, whether it's a term that brought a lot of return visitors because it's proven that they were on the site once before, they remembered what keyword they searched for, maybe they didn't remember the site, so they searched again, and so you have a term that brought a return visitor to your site. We're always going to pass that stuff over to PPC and say, look, here's where we are with this stuff. Think about a campaign that incorporates all this stuff.
Right, so clearly you can learn a lot from PPC data for SEO and from SEO data for PPC. But as Eric alluded to, there are very few situations where PPC does all the work or SEO does all the work to make the conversion happen. There are many situations and most situations that it takes both, as well as other direct visits to really push that final conversion through. So I can tell you from recent and actual experience that, really understanding the relationship between PPC, SEO, and the other sort of marketing mediums that you're running for your website, being able to explain that to your internal or external clients, whether you're working for one particular brand in-house or you're working in an agency atmosphere, it's incredibly important to be able to explain this relationship. So we know that sometimes users click on a PPC ad and they get to our website. Then they look around, click on a few different products or services, and leave without converting. We know that sometimes then they remember our brand name from being on the website, they go back to Google or Bing and they type it directly in the search bar, and then they click on our organic listing. They're still not quite ready to buy, so they wait a few more days, think it over, and then they go back to this direct traffic option that Eric was explaining earlier, where they open up their browser and type in www. We'll say it's kaylaswidgets.com, and go straight to your site and then check out and make a purchase. You need to make sure that each step of that funnel gets credit where it's due. Who gets the conversion credit? The direct traffic, right? That's where the conversion actually happened. But PPC and SEO definitely contributed, and one could certainly argue that without the first and second touches, that direct visit conversion may not have happened because they wouldn't know your brand name or your URL to type in to go direct anyway. So keeping in mind that credit needs to be given where it's due, we've got to understand how all of our marketing mediums contribute to overall success and overall goal completion. That's where multi-channel funnels and analytics really come in handy. So for any particular goal conversion you've got set up within analytics, you can view how much overlap there was between any given medium in order to make that conversion bucket happen. So it's just about attribution, making sure that while maybe PPC or SEO wasn't directly responsible for the final conversion, they get some credit through there a little bit.
Kayla, I lost your audio.
Okay, let's go ahead and look at it. Oh, am I back? I think
Nope,
I'm back.
you're back. That's fine.
Sorry, I think I hit my mute button. Accident. I got too excited about the multi-channel funnel. Okay, so what we're looking at is this is actually an example for a lead gen client. And the particular conversion goal we're looking at here is just their contact us page form. And we're looking at a 6-month period of data. So I looked at the multi-channel funnel for this particular goal, and I can see that we had 4,199 conversions on just that conversion goal form in that 6 months. And over 1,200 of those actually needed multiple touches from various mediums in order to come through. So this particular client actually was considering cutting back on their SEO efforts. So we sat down, we deliberated all of this together, and I sort of explained to them that if you look at the color scheme here, that really dark green section that is in between all three, the lighter green section next to it, and the blue-green section would all not exist if they cut SEO. Because we're looking at the blue circle being PPC and paid search, the green circle is organic or SEO search, and then the orange tanny colored circle there is direct. So, as you can see, there are certainly segments there that would not exist without multiple touch points, and those conversions would have never come in. So cutting out SEO for this particular client was going to immediately eliminate over 1,200 leads over a 6-month period. So fortunately, they took a step back and understood that relationship and decided to still focus on both. And I also wanted to just make a note. I think it's important that, in this particular situation, we were looking to make an argument for keeping a medium. There are definitely situations where you get in and you think that a particular segment or traffic medium isn't working, and you get in and look at it is, or the opposite can be true. You don't think that a segment is, or you think a segment's working and you get in and it's not, so you have to make an uncomfortable decision sometimes. But this is a imperative and all important relationship to not only analyze both for the good and the bad, but be able to truly understand how your goals are being met with everybody contributing. Analytics is clearly a great way to look at this. This Venn diagram option screenshot is fantastic. It makes it really easy to understand where the overlap is. And the degree of analysis that's capable of being pulled out of just this one screenshot, I think is pretty incredible. All right, we've been pretty happy-go-lucky so far in the presentation, basically making the assumption you've got all the information you need, you've got all the data you need to look at, and everything's working great. But what if you're missing some of your key data? Eric's actually going to jump into how you handle that now.
All right, thanks. On the SEO side, what we've been dealing with for the last year and a half or so is Google having made a decision that says, we want to make sure that the keyword that people use to find your site in its journey across the web is encrypted so that people can't hijack it or retarget it or somehow figure out what you have searched for. Okay, that's the official story, at least. And it's been a point of frustration for organic search marketers for quite a while. And this is not a Google Analytics thing. This is not an Omniture thing. It's agnostic of analytics platform. This is a Google search thing. So no matter what your analytics platform is, when you look at your referring organic keywords, you're going to see a lot of them that say, in parentheses, not provided. All right. And early on, they thought, well, it's not going to be that many. You're not going to have that big of a number of not provided keywords. It might hit 5, 10%. And that was a drastic understatement. For our own site, it's about 40%. For client sites, they range in the 20 to 30% of all organic phrases. We just don't know what they are. Now, another frustrating point for us is that in a PPC campaign, those phrases are provided. So the same quote unquote security issues that Google's worried about on the organic side, they're not as worried about when they're getting some revenue from the click. All right. So this is not to bash PPC. They just happen to be, in the right place here during this circumstance. It's more of a frustration with Google, but here's the reality. It's not going away. Now browsers like Chrome's latest edition does all searches automatically on the HTTPS protocol, secure HTTP. So that is going to encrypt the keyword. Firefox already does it. Not sure where Internet Explorer is, but we need to prepare for a world where organic intelligence, i.e. the specific keywords that people are using to arrive on our sites, is going to be drastically cut down, if not eliminated entirely. Now, the one of the silver linings here is it's not as if we're losing the information about how many people are coming. We still know the raw numbers of people that come from Bing and Yahoo and Google and Yandex and all those things. We know the specific ratios. We know the specific, if 1,200 people came last month on Google, we know that number is accurate. Okay, but we just don't know specifically what all the keywords were. How do we deal with that? Well, there are a lot of ways to deal with that. And if, one of our specialists wrote a really nice blog post a month or two ago about life in the post not provided world. So at blog.intrapromote.com, if you search for not provided, there's some good content there. But in brief, one of the things we recommend is instead of looking at your list of keywords, look at your list of landing pages that is segmented towards organic traffic. And that's what I have here in the largest screenshot in the left side of the screen. This is organic traffic, and it's divided by landing page for a specific period of time. So what we have is we don't know what drove people to the social media optimization page, but we can track over time how well that page is doing organically so that we know when, if it rises, the keywords that we've used on that page in its content, in its title, in its, in its alt text maybe, that is improving or it's declining. We get a feel for the fact that our theme of social media optimization is doing better or at the same or worse than it was before. So if it's doing worse over time, we need to do more keyword research. We need to punch up the copy, and maybe add some more case studies to the bottom of it, something like that. So we're not going to get that keyword information. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news. It's just, I don't foresee it coming back in an organic setting. But the way we're currently working through it is to say, okay, we know we're not going to have it, but how many people went to a page organically and landed here, and and what set of keywords is that page optimized to attract? And so we can sort of triangulate, hey, all the stuff about, if you're on a medical site, all about this specific type of tumor, the organic traffic landing on this page has doubled over the last 6 months. All right, well, then we know that we're doing good. We can still add copy to it. We can still continually do keyword research like we would anyway. But instead of looking at the keyword level and saying, wow, anything with the word tumor in it has increased, we're looking at the pages that we've targeted that term toward. So how are those terms doing? How are they doing? And we say, okay, so this keyword set that we had, it's working, or it's not working, or it needs to be beefed up. So, bottom line is we're gradually shifting focus to a landing page based world instead of an organic keyword based world. Now, we're certainly going to use keyword data as long as we have it, but it's really hard to do valid year over year comparisons, because maybe last year the amount of not provided traffic was 17%. This year it's maybe 35%. So you really can't even say, well, you can't look at tumor numbers from January of 2013 and tumor numbers from January 2012. They're just not apples to apples anymore. So we recommend pointing your efforts toward, or your vision towards, the metrics that you do know are the same. And that, for this example, is landing page from an organic source. You can also connect your Google Analytics account to your Google Webmaster Tools account. And on the right side of the screen, Google Analytics will show you in periods of a month, I think, what the top organic queries were to your site. It's ballpark. It's not, this is not the Holy Grail. This isn't the, these are not the droids we've been looking for, I guess you could say. It's helpful. It usually reinforces what you see on a Google Analytics page, but you get the feeling there's a lot more there, just because of the way the numbers are rounded and the quantities of impressions around it, that it's not the whole picture. But again, it supplements it, and we use it, and that's where we are on the keyword not provided area.
Okay, so, overall, we just want to emphasize with this particular presentation that whether it is Google Analytics or another analytics dashboard of some kind, a deeper level of reporting and analysis it's not only preferred, it's quite frankly necessary, to truly optimize the performance on either the PPC or SEO side. So quite frankly, why wouldn't you enable some version of an analytics dashboard? Analytics gives you a deeper analysis of any individual medium on its own. It also allows you to compare how it performs with or against other mediums, and it just lets you learn from one to give to the other and truly round out your overall marketing scheme. And aside from all of that, analytics is a great way to double, triple, quadruple check your interface numbers and make sure that you're making the right addition or subtraction decisions with your account, for your account, keeping the long-term performance and progress in mind. All right, really quick before we jump into questions, we wanted to make a quick announcement and let everybody know that we are incredibly excited to announce that IntraPromote is officially a premier sponsor for Hannafin and PPC Hero's HeroComp this coming April in Austin. So we're really excited that the IntraPromote team is going to be joining us. And if you've somehow missed it, HeroComp is actually a 3-day, 100% PPC conference that's built for actual paid search account managers, the ones who are, boots on the ground, implementing changes, optimizing accounts, really making the work happen. So we're going to send our attendees off with completely usable, actionable ideas for their accounts, and we would love to have all of you join us. There's definitely still time to register. Spots are filling up incredibly fast, and we certainly do have a limit on space. But if you're interested in attending or getting more information, we encourage you to visit the conference website at herocomp.com or contact me directly, and I'm more than happy to answer any of your questions or assist with the registration process. Hint, hint, especially if you're going to be bringing more than one person. We've got some group discounts that I've got some codes for that I can help you get some additional discounts. And we've got 3 separate tracks this year at HeroComp, so you'll quite frankly be leaving yourself out to dry a little bit if you come just by yourself. You're going to be missing out on at least 2 tracks all day long. So try to bring your friends and let me know if I can help. It's question time.
Hey, let me add too that, there are a lot of industry-wide online marketing trade shows that are, all things to all people. There are some really big ones and they do a lot. And that's fine, but you can end up paying for, 75% of things that really don't apply to you. If you're hardcore PPC, this is a neat opportunity. And we're thrilled to be one of, if not the only sort of organic voice there to talk to people too. But this is, when they say PPC only, they're not kidding around. So whether you're starting in it or whether you are, super developed PPC guru, this is going to have something for you. So we're excited to be a part of it.
Oh, thank you, Eric. We appreciate that.
All right.
So,
how do we want to do questions?
Yes. If you got the questions from GoToMeeting, you can shoot me any that are PPC specific.
All right. We have some. Let's see. Here's a good one that I think is going to be good for both PPC and SEO. Ashley says, for service businesses where conversions are measured offline, i.e. via a phone call, and can't be measured at the keyword level in Google Analytics, is there another way to get data? And she's specifically talking about the advanced segmentation about people who did or did not convert. So in other words, let's say, again, it's not an online action that's the conversion factor. It's picking up the phone and calling. So I've had a chance to think about this question. So I'll start off with the SEO part. And Kayla, if you want to think about, and I know there's a lot you can do with phone numbers and PPC, it's tricky. Offline stuff is interesting because we recommend that your website have a phone number that's maybe unique to your website. And so maybe not the one that's in the yellow pages, so that anytime you get a phone call on there, it's attached to online pursuits. Now that doesn't help you, I know, when you're talking about SEO versus PPC versus email and things like that. One of the things we've done is create some click-to-call events, and this especially works on mobile sites. But you can create an event or just tie a button to a specific event in Google Analytics, and every time they hit that, and it's like like I said, click to call. You click this button on the site, and your phone pops up and it says, "Are you sure you want to call this number?" And you say yes. That's an event that we can trigger or we can monitor in Google Analytics. So, but if they're just looking at the phone number and then picking up their own landline and calling, that gets a little bit trickier, especially on the SEO side, because we can't have multiple versions of these organic pages floating around because of our own architecture issues. But Kayla, on the PPC side, what can you do with unique phone numbers, and how can that work in segmenting your successes?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think a lot of what I'm thinking for this is similar to yours in that it's setting events on the site as potential conversions within a funnel, and then also sort of masking a generalized 800 number that may go direct to your call center with some PPC specific ones. So this kind of requires some advanced segmentation of your landing pages and your website potentially. But really the best way to do it thoroughly is to have an almost complete set of landing pages for PPC traffic. So they may look completely identical to any of the pages that you're sending other traffic to, you just know that you're only sending your PPC traffic there. So anyone who gets to that site at all had to come from paid search. And then each one of those landing pages would likely have its own sort of PPC specific phone number, whether it be by, campaign or ad group, so that if you get a phone call into that particular number, it again had to come from PPC. Additionally, I think that it's kind of a bit of a sneakier way to do it, and I don't mean sneaky and bad. I just mean that it's sort of an extra layer. But in order to use like a click as an event when it comes to a phone number, probably people aren't going to scroll over the phone number and do anything to it. They're just going to pick up their phone sitting next to them and call the number. But I've seen situations where for a particular client, there's a link that says call us, for example, and then you have to click on that link to get the phone number to pop up. So the assumption would be that if they click to get the phone number to show, they're probably calling you right after that. So I think I'm going to have to agree with Eric. It's about basically segmenting things out so that any traffic that's coming to a particular page must be coming from a specific medium, and then setting up those phone numbers on site to be medium or landing page specific, so that again you just get that next level of tracking.
Very good. We have a lot of questions about the specific reports and report generation and sort of the how-to on creating custom reports and advanced segments.
I think we can, if we could put those, because those are all really great questions. We've actually got some pretty thorough how-to posts within PPC Hero. So whoever sent those questions, we could just put something up on PPC Hero as a follow-up post with those individual links to the how-to.
Right. And yeah, specifically, and some of these advanced segments and custom reports you can actually export and save and share with a link. Some of the ones that I used would not be appropriate for that because they contain specific goals that were created with a unique client in mind. But I could create some dummy report or some dummy segments that would show you how to do branded versus non-branded. That would, and especially I'd like to share one that we've used for mobile phone only that strips out tablet, and some others like that. So yeah, and we can do that on your blog. We can do it back over to ours, or we can cross-link the two. So yeah, we'll make sure to make that a priority for follow-up for this webinar.
Absolutely.
All right. Now here's one that was, and someone asked about Hero Conference. Is it geared towards service company niches also? A lot of PPC conferences do not include much about service companies.
I assume we're talking lead gen versus e-commerce, so you're selling, a service as opposed to a specific product. And I will say with full certainty, we keep everything very even keel. So in terms of 101 versus advanced level, we try to keep things pretty evenly split throughout the conference. And similar to that, we definitely keep things even when discussing lead gen, for more service-based industries, and e-commerce for product-based industries. Online, offline sales, we're definitely going to have a wide range. So absolutely geared towards both. And just to speak into that a little bit deeper, we're going to, when you register and you get there, you're going to get the full list of the schedule, and that's actually going to be released here in the next few weeks on herocomp.com as well. But you'll know full well going in how to schedule your day to make sure you get the most service business related topics as possible.
Here's something very futuristic and hypothetical.
I like it.
In your opinions, what will it take and how long will it take for cross-device tracking to be developed? For example, you do research on your phone and then you check it later on your tablet, and maybe finally later you convert on the PC.
I think, if it's okay if I go first, Eric, I think
absolutely.
That, my thoughts with this is that to a certain degree we can kind of see that information. We just have to know it's all IP based, I guess, to me. So you're capable of seeing, I feel like, if you dig down deep enough, if someone is truly using multiple devices. It just takes a much deeper level of analysis and Sherlock Holmes in it. But I think that it's ultimately it's going to be oh man, I would say probably less than a couple of years we'd be able to, just immediately see that kind of data. Because, as things get more interlinked, you've got the iCloud for your Mac and also your iPhone, and all of your information can get synced up with the iCloud and downloaded right back to all of your different devices. I think that it's going to be something to that degree where, all of your searches from all of your different devices basically get siphoned up into one big cloud. But I'd say probably within the next couple of years, and I don't think it's far off by any means.
Yeah, and in the meantime, I think this points, and it is tricky. It's not happening to any great extent now consistently, I don't think, but it points to maybe trying to make it as easy as possible for people to create memberships on a site or have an account where you can say, okay, you're logged in on your iPad, you're logged in on your Nexus phone, that way cross device becomes just secondary because it's all account based, and you can look at how this person from the account logged in. But it's obviously very tricky from a trust perspective. Well, I'm just here for the first time. I'm certainly not going to give you my email address and sign up for an account. But I think that is one direction you could possibly take this to. And how easy is it, and what benefit is there for a user to sign up for an account quickly that they'll want to sign into on their other devices?
Hmm. Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I wonder how long it is until the internet is something you need to be a member of. Do you know what I mean? So to even open up a browser, you've got to log into something first. Like if you
Yeah.
go to a university campus and you want to access the internet, before you can even log into the computer, you've got to give it your credentials. So, I mean, I wonder, it's very similar thought process, and you can lead yourself down a path of, oh my goodness, do you know how cool that would be? But it is a very interesting question.
Here's a question about PPC possibly being mistagged or misattributed. Any idea why there might be a tremendous amount of direct traffic tracked? We know it's actually PPC, but 2/3 of purchases occur from direct. Um, any chance of determining which PPC campaigns are performing better than others? I'm not sure if that's two questions or one, but what might be a reason that PPC traffic could be mislogged?
I think I'm slightly confused on the question because it sounds like conversions are being counted towards direct traffic, but they're saying that they know they're originating from PPC. So my thought would be that it's just a multi-touch situation, of course, right? So the initial click, maybe even a few of the initial clicks may be coming from paid search, but they're not converting until they just come to your site direct, a few days or a few hours later. So I'm only slightly confused by the question because I feel like if you just look at your multi-channel funnels, you should be able to track that back and verify that they are definitely coming from PPC. Certainly, it could be a coding issue if your AdWords code isn't firing correctly or isn't synced up with analytics. That's obviously going to cause some miscounting of paid search conversions. Additionally, if you set up your analytics account originally and didn't click on the e-commerce radio button, again, this is very specific, so it may not fit this particular account, but if you're an e-commerce account, which means you need to track sales, revenue, and things like that from a dollar amount standpoint on the site, if you didn't select that radio button when first opting into analytics, it's basically crawling your site as if it's a lead gen. So you just may end up with some mismatched data that way as well. Certainly a few things you could troubleshoot to try to fix it, but I'm going to have to say that without a deeper view and being able to look at it myself, I'm not exactly sure. I'm gonna look at this question again and see if I've got more thoughts to share
Okay.
on an actual follow-up post. But those are my initial thoughts.
We have about a minute left, but I wanted to first state there was a request for you to be able to show how you created that cross-channel interaction analysis directly in the analytics interface. Now, was that off the shelf, or did you ask for the report based on a certain channel or campaign?
I guess we're referring to the multi-channel funnel. Yeah. So this is
Yeah.
you set up multi-channel funnels. You have to basically set up your conversion goals and show within each conversion the flow of how that conversion happens, and then that automatically pulls all this data into the cross-channel analysis. This particular one is straight out of one of my client accounts, but the setup process for this is really quite simple. And again, it's already there. It's just a selection of particular radio buttons for which mediums you see within the Venn diagram. So that's another one. We've got a huge post about the specific how-to step-by-step within PPC Hero. So I'll be sure to post that link, or you can go to PPC Hero and in our Google custom search box, just type in multi-channel funnels. It's going to come up.
Webinar participant Jay from the 3-point line tells us that cross-device tracking is something Google will be providing in the next 3 months through their new enhanced campaign initiative. I had not read about that, so I appreciate Jay letting us know that.
Jay, thank you. That's awesome. I'm going to admit I got a little bit bogged down in the mobile portion, so I'm a little log jammed with the enhanced campaigns.
Let's see. I think we got time for about one more. Mike says, does the keyword not provided issue also affect reporting for keyword traffic on the Google AdWords tool? For example, not enough data. I do not think that is the case. I don't think the AdWords tool has the same issues about security that a normal analytics profile would have. So in the AdWords tool, Kayla, what would be responsible for the response, not enough data? Is that just a demand-based response?
Yeah, so you're not going to get, because AdWords is so keyword driven, the opportunities for that data not to flow through are pretty limited. Really, something's got to get sort of a cookie or a code has to misfire at some point within the process, basically, to edit that information out from being visible. But generally speaking, just fortunately not an issue we've got.
All right, I think that's about all we have time for. Listen, I want to thank everybody. We had a great turnout today, and I hope you learned something and enjoyed it and are able to take something away from it. And as Kayla has said, we'll have follow-ups. If you signed up for this webinar, you'll get an announcement about when the archived version is ready. We will address the questions we did not have time to address, and we would love to see you at our next webinar.
Absolutely. Yeah, again, thank you guys all so much. Eric and I are more than willing to hear any feedback or communication back from you all, so we'll be reaching out to follow up, and of course, feel free to reach out to us specifically. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next month.
Thanks, everybody.